This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
One of the landmark partnerships that has defined the generative AI age is changing. Another thing that's changing, the way that large language models may be getting their information in the future after some major publishers have partnered together, and a $300 billion play in AI by Oracle. Maybe we didn't see a huge new model released this week from Google or OpenAI, but we have some partnership news that is technically going to impact tens of millions of people and how they work. So we're going to be covering all of that today on Everyday AI and a whole lot more. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for joining us. What's going on, y'all? My name is Jordan Wilson and welcome to Everyday AI. This is your daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter helping everyday business leaders like you and me not just keep up with AI, because there's a ton going on, but how we can make sense of all of these updates and behind the scenes happenings and take something away to grow our companies and our careers. So if that's what you're trying to do, it starts here with the unedited live stream podcast. But to take it to the next level, you got to go to our website, y'all. It's at youreverydayai.com. So there, two things you got to do. One, sign up for the free daily newsletter where each day we recap the live stream podcast like we're going over now. But also we keep you in line and up to date with everything that's happening in the world of AI, not just what we're going over in today's show. So yeah, most Mondays, we go over kind of this special segment, the AI news that matters. So you don't got to waste hours every single week or hours every single day trying to figure out how these things are going to impact your line of work. Just join us on Mondays. We do our no BS, straight to the point recap. So with that, live stream audience, I see you there. Thanks for joining us, but let's get straight into it. I'm in a new place. You can see, in Wisconsin now. So not in my normal Chicago, but thanks for everyone else for tuning in live. Jay joining in from West Virginia. Angie, good morning. Marie joining from New Jersey, Fort Lauderdale. Joe says he's not a Florida man. All right, let's get into it, y'all. Our first piece of AI news. $300 billion. That's a big one, right? That's a number you don't see floated around a lot. So let's talk about this new $300 billion deal between OpenAI and Oracle. Technically kind of new, but kind of amending and updating their previous agreement. So Oracle has reportedly signed a 5-year computing power commitment with OpenAI worth about $300 billion, driving a 359% surge in Oracle's reported future contract revenue this quarter and a $317 billion increase in backlog. So if this deal is fully utilized, and there's some contingencies that it might not be an actual $300 billion contract in the long run, but the deal could put Oracle's cloud revenue runway near $1 trillion by 2030. A figure that underscores how generative AI demand is reshaping where hyperscaler investment flows. So Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or ACI, well, now you got to say there's a big four in cloud. You can't not include Oracle Cloud or OCI anymore. So joining Amazon Web Services, Microsoft's Azure, and Google Cloud. So now for the big AI cloud providers, the big three have officially become a big four with Oracle. You can't make an argument against them with this $300 billion play. So according to reports, OCI's approach, which is identical regions, tight capacity planning, and engineering first delivery, was a key reason that OpenAI opted in alongside Oracle's strengths in data movement and high performance infrastructure. Skeptics, however, note the financial bar is steep. So for OpenAI to fully fund a $300 billion commitment over 5 years, it would need roughly $60 billion in annual revenue minimum, right? Just to make this thing work. And that's around 6 times its current reported run rate. So yeah, some people are doing the math, and the math isn't necessarily mathing, but obviously there's some other AI news that could shape how OpenAI may be able to raise funds, and they may be able to bring money in aside from just their annualized revenue. So for Oracle Database Fusion and ERP customers, Gartner says that this is a net win, with Oracle expected to keep investing in core apps while offering access to expanded GPU capacity. And also, the broader market implication is faster AI for everyone. Right now that Oracle has this big partnership in place, building off of their previous partnership with OpenAI and Stargate, this means that all the other cloud providers are gonna have to continue to keep up and push each other. So ultimately, what this means, especially for enterprise companies that are looking to take advantage of generative AI, we always talk about running things in the cloud. Well, for the most part, there had been 3 big cloud providers, and now Oracle knocking on the door and saying, yeah, now there's a big 4. All right. Speaking of new features, at least, that I think are actually pretty big. So Anthropic has rolled out a new file creation feature for Claude that can generate, modify, and manage project files, making it more useful for coding tasks, documentation, and data workflows. So the feature supports end-to-end tasks such as scaffolding repos, editing code, writing config files, and producing Claude artifacts, which can speed up software and content development for teams. So Claude operates with controlled external access via an allowed whitelist of domains, including api.anthropic.com, github.com, and other places where you can kind of create these files. So right now, though, unfortunately, this isn't going out to all plans. So if you're logging in, this new file creation feature has actually grabbed a lot of headlines the last few days, but a lot of people are like, wait, I don't have this. That's because right now this feature is only for team and enterprise accounts, and team and enterprise administrators have to first enable or disable the feature for their organizations to be able to use it. So for other users, including free, Pro, the $20 a month and the $100 plan max, apparently didn't even get this file right away. So public sharing also will be disabled for conversations that involved file creation. So enterprise users, though, that do have their hands on this, and Teams users, but on the enterprise side, users get sandboxed execution. So environments are never shared between users, supporting cleaner separation of workflows and easier auditability. So Anthropic says that it continuously tests and red teams this features and recently updated their documentation to reflect this. So what does this mean? Well, essentially, most large language models by default have real problems creating files, right? You have to actually either sometimes just get lucky, right? Whether you're working with Copilot, ChatGPT, etc., or you have to know a little bit about prompt engineering, using the right mode, etc. So, as an example, you might have to call out and have ChatGPT use advanced data analysis mode and not just use the default GPT-5 in order to create a file. So now this is a new feature that Claude has started to roll out across teams and enterprise accounts, which is eventually going to be adapted by everyone because it's going to have to be. I think earlier on, a lot of people weren't necessarily as concerned about creating files inside of a large language model because they were like, okay, well, I'll just copy and paste it. But as large language models obviously get more robust, get more features and functionality, right, get the ability to create PowerPoints, right? So, ChatGPT's agent mode can do a lot of these things by default. They can create Excel sheets now, PowerPoint now, but agent mode is extremely slow and a little clunky right now. So now this is pretty big news with Anthropic Claude rolling this out to their broader chat, right? Just normal Claude being able to create PowerPoints, docs, Excel sheets, etc. Pretty big news, but don't like Anthropic's rollout, not giving access to all paid users. So unfortunately, this might be something if you're just on the base $20 a month Claude plan. I don't know. You might have to wait a couple months, a couple of quarters, but hopefully it's a little faster rollout than that. Speaking of Claude, well, Microsoft is adding Anthropic's Claude to their Office 365 mix. Pretty big news here. And we have more news, I think, on our last news story with Microsoft and OpenAI, but Microsoft definitely shaking it up, just as OpenAI shook it up with their Oracle partnership, kind of going outside of the Azure cloud. So right now, Microsoft is widening its AI lineup inside of Office 365. Now, routing tasks between Anthropic's Claude and OpenAI's ChatGPT models to improve performance and reduce reliance on a single provider. So now Microsoft will begin to integrate Claude models alongside ChatGPT across their Office products, including Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, with Microsoft dynamically choosing models based on demand, workload, and task fit. I'm not a big fan on that. I think it's better to allow users to choose which model that they want to use. So I'm not a big fan of that. And one of the reasons why, right, is you want to be able to work large language models into your daily workflow. So if you're constantly, using Microsoft Copilot and using their obviously AI features to help across Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, you're going to get drastically different results, which is going to require drastically different inputs, whether it's using any of the GPT-5 models versus using the Claude 4 family. So although I think it's great that Microsoft is starting to incorporate other models, not a huge fan with Copilot doing this dynamically. So a little bit more on this partnership. So the partnership with Anthropic runs over AWS, meaning that Microsoft will pay AWS. And that one's interesting, right? So Microsoft having to pay one of their competitors. So AWS is one of Claude's big backers. And also that's how Claude runs. So Microsoft is having to pay AWS to access Claude, even though they have their OpenAI models running on their own Azure architecture. So Microsoft, though, says there should be no change to current Copilot or Office 365 pricing, even though their pricing is increasing with the new Claude inclusion, signaling a focus on capability gains rather than a short-term monetization strategy for Microsoft. So yeah, it's not like Microsoft is using this as a key feature to try and go and get more users across their Copilot enterprise suite. They're just, hoping for more reliability, a little bit more versatility as well. So Microsoft said that performance was a key driver, and reportedly they said that Claude Sonnet 4 family was a little bit better in helping generate slides, spreadsheets, and PDFs directly in chat, and has shown advantages on Office-specific tasks like more polished PowerPoint design and automated Excel functions. So this move, it's not necessarily very unique within Copilot, because Microsoft and their Copilot product had pretty much been just running on the GPT family and the O series family of models when there was an O series family of models. But essentially, Microsoft had been exclusively over the life of their front end Copilot, just been offering OpenAI's models. But it follows their GitHub Copilot multi-model approach, which they've already been using for a long time on their AI coding platform, Copilot. They let developers pick from ChatGPT, xAI, Gemini, and Claude, suggesting maybe this might mean a future where Microsoft offers many different models inside their product stack. I do think, and I hope if they go there, I do hope that means that they'll allow users to actually select which models make the most sense. And this shift comes amid an uneasy but still ongoing Microsoft and OpenAI relationship, despite Microsoft holding a reported 49% equity stake in OpenAI, with a total of about $13 billion invested in the company over the years. But like I said, that partnership is definitely changing. Another one walks out the door. Yes, Apple has lost another one of their senior AI leaders. And this one, again, another one not looking good for Apple. So according to Bloomberg, Robbie Walker, one of Apple's most senior AI executives and the former head of Siri, is leaving the company next month, raising fresh questions about Apple's already cautious approach to artificial intelligence. So Bloomberg reports that Walker has led Apple's Answers, Information, and Knowledge team since April of this year and previously ran Siri. So the news lands as Apple actually trails by a lot, by a huge distance, their biggest rivals on consumer AI features, and their Apple Intelligence, including the built-in ChatGPT tie-in, has rolled out extremely slowly and has carried with it a bunch of lawsuits for essentially Apple promoting all these Apple Intelligence features that just don't exist. And we've seen that Apple has had to form a partnership with one of its biggest rivals in Google for a future smarter version of Siri. So Apple did not immediately respond to this big news, but internal leadership shifts continue as Apple has lost just about all their big AI names and leading AI researchers. So recent talent losses to Meta have intensified pressure, as Bloomberg has reported that Ruming Peng, who is Apple's top executive for AI models, plus other researchers such as Mark Lee and Tom Gunter, have joined Meta's Super Intelligence Labs teams. So the timing, like I said, follows last week's Apple's product event where they introduced new iPhones and a slimmer iPhone, while also just not really talking a whole lot about AI. And that's probably a good thing because they would just be talking about other companies that they're having to pay in order to provide AI to their consumers. Another one that's kind of a strange partnership, right? We've had a lot of strange partnerships in AI news this week, right? We just talked about Microsoft having to pay Amazon to use Claude, even though they're partnered with OpenAI and Oracle. And now we have OpenAI and Anthropic because OpenAI has officially added Anthropic's very popular model context protocol directly inside ChatGPT. So OpenAI did release something called developer mode this week, which allows people to enable the model context protocol, or MCP, directly inside of ChatGPT. So this gives people the access and ability to run their own MCP servers and also let ChatGPT run read-write commands from within a chat. So OpenAI did even admit themselves that this is quote unquote powerful but dangerous, with safeguards and guidance needed to reduce risks. So this is why they kind of rolled this out in what they're now calling a developer mode. So you have to go into your ChatGPT settings. Depends on what plan you're on. Obviously, if you're on enterprise, teams, a paid plan, etc. But you have to first enable developer settings, and then you are able to use the MCP protocol within ChatGPT, which is actually a huge deal. Right. So in the same way that you can kind of think Zapier, right? Zapier can connect you if you, use Zapier's, custom GPT or something like that. It can connect you to 6,000 or 7,000 different pieces of software. Well, MCP is the same thing. Well, Zapier has an MCP that you can use inside of ChatGPT. Wow, that's a lot of acronyms. But this also opens up to just all MCP servers. And we probably should do a show on MCP now, especially since ChatGPT is supporting it. So I don't know, live stream audience, Spotify people, just comment MCP like yes or no if you want the show. I've said for months, I'm like, yeah, we'll do one eventually, but I think this might be the thing that's really going to push MCPs into the spotlight. Even though Microsoft Copilot started to support them natively inside of Windows, I actually think it is ChatGPT's 700 million weekly active users that could thrust MCPs into the real spotlight here. And not even for good reasons. I think this is actually what's going to open the door for a lot of prompt injections, malicious attacks that, for the most part, you haven't really seen inside of ChatGPT. So although this does open up a wide range of capabilities when it comes to what you can do and what you can accomplish, right? Essentially giving read-write access to anything on the internet now, but that's actually can be bad because you're giving read-write access to anything on the internet within your ChatGPT account. So this is a door that definitely swings two ways, but I think this is actually going to be the thing that is going to make MCPs something that's not just for developers or dorks like me anymore. So if you're like, what the heck is an MCP? You can kind of think of it like a universal port for AI tools, right? How there's, a USB, 3 or something on your computer and on your iPhone and on other devices. Well, MCP is kind of like that. It's like a universal port for AI tools. So developers, though, can also expose functions through these MCPs, such as checking inventory, updating records in your back-end tools that you use, and even processing payments through different MCP servers. So, safety controls, though, require explicit confirmation for any write action with full JSON payload review. Tools labeled read-only, hint, are treated as read-only, while others are blocked until approval. So, OpenAI, though, is trying to center their approach on safe in-chat usage with guardrails, while Anthropic's documentation focuses on MCP as open infrastructure for enterprise-scale systems and a growing ecosystem for pre-built servers. So, y'all, this is actually big, right? Because you can do, like I said, you could do a lot of these things already by going through Zapier. But number one, you have to pay a lot of money. Number two, it can be a little slower, essentially if you're using an intermediary. So this is kind of like how websites have APIs to talk to each other. So MCPs kind of are like an API type protocol for websites. So it can allow different AI systems to talk to different AI systems, and then different AI systems to talk to different backends, right? So think if your company has, a CRM and an ERP, and they have all of these different systems, well, now ChatGPT can probably be able to run off those because there's probably already a publicly available MCP tool that will do it, or you can build your own MCP tool. So again, the whole read-write, giving ChatGPT read-write access to, in theory, an unlimited number of systems. This really does change what you can do with ChatGPT. It changes. So if you've used ChatGPT's newer connectors, so it's kind of like a connector in MCP, although they are technically, from a technical standpoint, built much different. From a functionality statement or from a functionality viewpoint, they're kind of the same, right? So ChatGPT a couple of months ago rolled out these connectors. So, Gmail, for an example. ChatGPT can always just know your Gmail, and it can go in and read your Gmail. It can't send anything, right? So it's the same way. These different MCP servers are going to be able to access just about any data that you want, any dynamic data that your company uses. So huge news there. All right. This one could be even bigger. So I'm excited about this one. A lot of people know my background is in journalism. So I've been talking about, for now, almost 3 years, about how the future of media and publishing can go. And this is a huge new partnership that could influence that. So now you have some of the world's biggest publishers that have come together. So including companies like, and publishing companies like Reddit, Yahoo, Medium, Quora, People, O'Reilly, WikiHow, Ziff Davis, all coming together to support a new open standard called Really Simple Licensing, or RSL. So this sets paid terms for how AI systems like ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Claude, etc., how they can access and crawl and use content on your websites. So the RSL standard adds licensing instructions to these different robot.txt and essentially these AI bots that crawl different websites, and it tells them and embeds the terms in different web material, books, videos, and data sets, enabling large language model systems to be charged via a subscription, a pay per crawl fee, or a pay per inference when an AI references their work. So this initiative is organized by the RSL Collective, led by RSS co-creative Eckhart Walder and former Ask.com.
Are you still running in circles trying to figure out how to actually grow your business with AI? Maybe your company has been tinkering with large language models for a year or more, but can't really get traction to find ROI on Gen AI. Hey, this is Jordan Wilson, host of this very podcast. Companies like Adobe, Microsoft, and NVIDIA have partnered with us because they trust our expertise in educating the masses around generative AI to get ahead. And some of the most innovative companies in the country hire us to help with their AI strategy and to train hundreds of their employees on how to use Gen AI. So, whether you're looking for ChatGPT training for thousands or just need help building your front end AI strategy, you can partner with us too, just like some of the biggest companies in the world do. Go to youreverydayai.com/partner to get in contact with our team, or you can just click on the partner section of our website. We'll help you stop running in those AI circles and help get your team ahead and build a straight path to ROI on Gen AI.
CEO Doug Leeds, who aims to create a scalable business model that defines rights and compensation across the lab. I'm actually going to try to get, I was talking with Doug yesterday, so going to try to get Doug on the show. If you guys think it would be an interesting show, I would love it, just to talk about how this might impact the future of work, because this is big, because this could, in theory, obviously keep a lot of publishing companies in the game longer, but also create a much more equitable compensation package for all of these companies that we've seen the stories about how, the traditional web is dead and how major publishers now, because of large language models, for the most part, just scraping their websites and using all of their information without attribution, without compensation. You've seen a lot of these companies over the past couple of years lose up to 60, 70, 80% of their website users. And a lot of times that means losing 60 to 70 to 80% of their revenue. So you've seen these huge layoffs across the industry. So this new RSL, or Real Simple Licensing agreement, could be huge. So RSL differs from individual licensing deals struck by publishers. Right. So we've seen, Reddit, as an example, have, multi-million dollar annual partnerships with some of the big large language model makers. So RSL is different from these individual deals because it offers any website or creator a standardized plug-in way to get paid without negotiating separate contracts. So on enforcement, RSL by itself cannot block bots, but the collective is working with Fastly. So only AI crawlers with a valid license ID, essentially, right? Saying, hey, you're only going to be able to crawl websites if you're registered through there. So then publishers would need to, will need other providers to build similar gatekeeping tools, right? So this is one of those things. It's only truly going to work if all of the big names get on board. Right. But from what I've read, it's fairly free and easier for small, indie, and individual content creators to essentially start using this technology. So the collective says that members will share legal enforcement costs, comparing the approach to ASCAP or ASCAP in music, yet acknowledging that AI training data and web scraping remain in a legal gray area amid ongoing lawsuits involving all the big names such as Ready, Getty Images, and other major publishers. So for companies and creators, this is big, and it could open up a new revenue stream from AI usage and provide clearer compliance rules for data access at scale. So y'all, I've been saying this literally for almost 3 years. I said there's only 3 ways that this works out in the long run, because the cat's already out of the bag, and this is going to take years, if not decades, to legislate or adjudicate in the courts, right? Especially here in the US. So the 3 options for big publishers are, well, number 1, you die. Number 2, you sue. Or number 3, you partner, right? And there hasn't been a good way to partner, aside from if you're one of the biggest websites in the world. But what about for everyone else? So this is a great way it looks like a great way. So I'm going to be investigating more and hopefully bringing the RSL team on the Everyday AI show soon to talk about this. But this seems like a great way for all different companies to choose the third option there, because there's literally no other option. Because eventually, especially if your company creates content to get leads, right? Which is what, for the most part, whether you're in B2B, whether you're in B2C, whether you're a small, solo creator, or you're a Fortune 500 company, companies put content on their website to attract their ideal client and customer and eventually bring them on as a client, as a paying client or customer. So there's obviously been a weird, awkward reckoning going on, I think, especially in 2025, as we've seen kind of this shift toward large language models essentially being an answers engine, right? And not just relying on old scraped content, right? So many of the large language models, ChatGPT, even Claude now, Gemini, etc. They're using just real-time web scraping to provide answers. So a lot of times users aren't going to these websites. They're not signing up for these, services or, being able to get retargeted, by visiting a website. So this is huge. And I can't emphasize enough, even though this might be a small thing, I think this could be a big win for the media, for journalism, for content. Because here's the other thing. Large language models are eating from the hand, like they're eating the actual hand that is feeding them, right? Because you've had so many large enterprise media companies that have had to lay off hundreds or thousands of employees. And when you go back and look at it, it's like, it's their work that actually allowed these large language models to be as smart and as robust as they are. All right, I'll get off my soapbox on that one, and let's move on. I think we have two or three more big stories here, so let's get to it. So next, Microsoft, according to reports, is moving to cut reliance on OpenAI as they plan significant investments in their own AI chip clusters to reduce dependency on OpenAI, according to Business Insider reports. So this is signaling a push for self-sufficiency while keeping their partnership in place. So Microsoft AI CEO Mustafa Suleyman told employees reportedly that the company should be able to build world-class frontier models in-house and use other models pragmatically, underscoring a strategy to play a close second to OpenAI in 3 to 6 months. So what does this mean? Well, essentially, Microsoft is going to be building its own chip clusters to build more powerful models to reduce their reliance on OpenAI. So Microsoft is testing third-party models in Copilot. Aside from that earlier partnership that we talked about with Claude, in Anthropic's Claude in Microsoft Office products inside Copilot, but Microsoft is also testing other third-party models in Copilot and building its own off-frontier models, aiming to diversify suppliers and lower costs for enterprise customers who rely on Microsoft 365 and Azure. So a little bit more on the Microsoft and OpenAI, but this is now our second AI news story of the day, and we haven't even gotten to the big one yet. That shows that Microsoft and OpenAI, technically our third story, they're kind of diversifying. So Microsoft is now starting to build its own chip clusters to build more powerful models. We had the story earlier about Oracle and OpenAI's potential $300 billion cloud AI deal, and also Microsoft starting to integrate and implement Anthropic Claude's models inside of Copilot. All right, moving on. And this is our big one, y'all. This is the big one. Actually, a two-part story here, 2 parts to it. So first, OpenAI and Microsoft have agreed to move forward with a new partnership. Their old partnership is gone. And this is pretty big, especially if your company is an OpenAI enterprise. So OpenAI and Microsoft signed a non-binding agreement to let OpenAI convert its for-profit arm into a public benefits corporation, or PBC, while the OpenAI nonprofit side keeps control of this entity and gains a stake valued at over $100 billion, according to reports. So this matters because the new PBC, Public Benefits Corporation structure, could unlock large new funding rounds for OpenAI, make an eventual IPO possible, or allow OpenAI, the ChatGPT maker, to go public and still keep mission-focused control in place, which could speed product development and change pricing across widely used AI tools. So the agreement comes in the form of an MOU, or a memorandum of understanding, and it's not final. And both sides says they are working on a definitive contract and need approvals from both California and Delaware attorneys general before any transition takes effect. So Brett Taylor, who's OpenAI's board chair, said the nonprofit will continue to control operations and also hold the PBC stake, but other terms were not yet disclosed. So, like I said previously, Microsoft had reportedly invested between $13 and $14 billion for a 49% claim in OpenAI. So this is a big shift here. So Microsoft, under this new agreement, would remain a preferred tech partner and primary cloud provider under the current deal, but OpenAI is reducing reliance by reportedly committing $300 billion to Oracle, like we just talked about, and also partnering with SoftBank on this Stargate data center. So months of tense talk included. This has been going on for many months. We've been reporting on it. These new partnership talks between OpenAI and Microsoft, and they've included disputes over rights to tech from Windsurf, an AI coding startup that OpenAI sought to buy, but the acquisition kind of collapsed because of this kind of agreement in the current partnership between Microsoft and OpenAI. And then Windsurf essentially was acqui-hired by Google. And then much of the remaining team moved to Cognition. So reportedly, the current partnership had also been a problem for OpenAI in acquiring other large AI companies that may not fit under the current agreement or that may be a direct competitor to Microsoft. So OpenAI's nonprofit over profit governance, which enabled the 2023 firing and the quick rehiring of CEO Sam Altman, remains intact and would carry over into this new structure. So this is big because if regulators approve and contracts are finalized, like I said, you could expect faster capital raises, a clear path for OpenAI to go public, right? So being able to go in your 401k and buy OpenAI shares, but also this would allow OpenAI to probably have faster acquisitions, right? Which could ultimately change the product drastically that 700 million people are using on a weekly basis. All right, so a little bit more on the revenue side. So technically a separate story here, but related. So according to the information, OpenAI projects that its revenue share with Microsoft will fall from nearly 20% in 2025 to only about 8% by the end of the decade, a shift that could reshape the economics of OpenAI. So this new report says this change could let OpenAI retain more than $50 billion of additional revenue that they did not project through 2030, giving it critical capital to cover massive training and inference costs as their usage scales. So yeah, reportedly, Microsoft had about 20% of a revenue share, and this is kind of outside, but we don't know if it's exactly outside or in addition to that 49% equity stake. But according to this new report from the information, the rev share side would fall from 20% to 8% by the end of the decade. So a pretty big drop off there. But that would mean OpenAI having a greater ability to scale and ramp up usage as well. So the companies, like I said, are finalizing that new partnership terms following the new non-binding MOU that enabled OpenAI's corporate restructuring. So Microsoft, though, still gains strategically with a significant equity stake moving forward and integration of OpenAI's models across Copilot and the right of first refusal on OpenAI's compute, keeping workloads anchored to Azure if they wish. All right. Sheesh, that was a lot. Yeah, Douglas saying, is it Hot Take Tuesday already? Not yet. All right, but there's more. Let's go over quick rapid fire here of what's new and what's next. All right. So these are some kind of news stories, some rumors, some new features, but there was a ton of smaller updates that could end up being big for you or your business. So we're going to go over them very quickly. Here we go. Bullet point. Let's go. So Claude rolled out memory finally, but only for enterprise and team plans. Claude also rolled out private chats for all users. Perplexity unveiled free access to Perplexity for the U.S. government. Meta signed a $140 million licensing deal with Black Forest Labs for AI images after a similar partnership with Midjourney. So Meta going all in on third-party AI image models. Google's VO3 can now generate vertical videos, and that's actually important. So keep an eye on social media reels being flooded with Google VO3 videos if they weren't already, because now VO3 can generate vertical, whereas before it could only generate landscape. OpenAI reversed course and is keeping their standard voice mode after they previously said they would get rid of it in lieu of their new advanced voice mode. So standard voice mode is sticking around. Perplexity raised $200 million at a $20 billion valuation. Microsoft added scripted audio mode, which looks pretty cool. I played around with it, to its Copilot audio expressions. AI agent startup GenSpark released an updated AI browser with on-device AI, which looks really good. And it might give Chromium-based Comet from Perplexity a run for their money on a top agentic browser. Replit introduced Agent 3, which looks extremely impressive, an agent that can run for up to 2 hours at a time. Thinking Machine Labs, run by former OpenAI exec Mira Murati, launched their Connectionisms blog and shared code to make large language model inference more deterministic and less generative. We got a lot. OpenAI is testing new checkout features for its desktop application, where they'll eventually offer shopping straight within ChatGPT. AI agent startup Manus added connectors like Gmail, Google Calendar, Notion, Zapier, and others to its product. ChatGPT may soon roll out parental controls, which I think will be sorely needed. Google rolled out a new feature inside Canvas called Select and Ask, making editing much easier inside Canvas. You can just select an element in Canvas and talk to Gemini and have it change it. ChatGPT earlier in the week announced branching of conversations. I think a lot of people are going nuts over this. I'm not really going to use it a whole lot because there's some problems with carrying over context that I think people aren't really understanding, but that's fine. Notebook LM added custom reports and new audio overview options, which we covered late last week in episode 608. Make sure to go check it out. It's actually really, really good. The TikTok parent company ByteDance released AI image model Seed Rame 4.0, which is really good. A lot of people are saying it's better than Google's Nano Banana. I don't think it is. Benchmarks don't say it is, but it is by far number 2. So huge new player on the scene. If you haven't seen Seed Dream 4.0 yet from ByteDance, pretty big. Speaking of Google's Nano Banana, Adobe has already rolled it out in Photoshop. So pretty big news there if your company is heavy Photoshop users. Google is rolling out ads in its AI mode, and Albania became the first country to appoint an AI bot as an official government minister. Wild. So much happening this week in AI news. I hope this was helpful. If it was, don't be greedy. Go tell someone about this if this was helpful. A lot of people are like, hey, Jordan, this is my cheat code. Listening to Everyday AI and having you do all my work for me, it's great. What can I do to help you? Tell someone about it. All right. If you're listening on the podcast, appreciate it if you click that follow or subscribe button on Spotify or Apple Music. If you could, leave us a rating. But also, if you're listening on the live stream, click that little repost button. Share this with your network. We try to do this every single day. I understand how hard it is to keep up with everything in the world of AI. And AI, if it hasn't already, is going to impact all of us and how we work. So join us on Mondays. If you don't really care about anything else, if you just want to know what's new, what's next, that's what we do for you. Tuesdays, kind of our hot take Tuesday, coming with a hot take this week. So make sure you go check out our newsletter. I'm going to put out a poll, let you guys decide what's going to be on our show tomorrow. So another reason you need to go to youreverydayai.com and sign up for the free daily newsletter if you haven't already. So thank you all for tuning in. Hope to see you back tomorrow and every day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.